PFL Europe Championships this Saturday. I do believe it is. I think it's Saturday. From Dublin, Ireland, you've got 13 fights for the final PFL Europe card of the year, the final PFL card of the year. And I'm kind of interested to see where the PFL goes with PFL Europe after this year. Obviously, they just acquired Bellator, and I don't really know what's next because you've got some title fights in this card. Are they for the PFL Europe Championships, or are they just for the PFL Championships themselves? Because every single championship, with the exception of the 205 belt, can be made as the actual PFL championship. The PFL Light Europe Lightweight Championship, that can be the actual championship because Olivier Aubin-Mercier has retired. They obviously don't have a bantamweight division, so the winner of Mlambo and Kakhorov can be for the World Championship, and they don't have a women's 125 either, so the winner of Ditcheva and Scatizzi can be for the World Championship as well. Are they really going to make all these fighters go out and fight the Bellator champions? Like, would you really have Dakota Ditcheva go out and fight Liz Carmouche? I don't know. But that's the 13 fight card. You got 4 title fights. It's main evented by Nate Kelly, which we'll get to that later. I really don't understand that at all. But yeah, 13 fights in this card. And folks, if you haven't yet though, make sure that subscribe button down below for some more MMA here on the channel. We already posted earlier this week our Song Yadong versus Chris Gutierrez full card predictions from the UFC Apex. Next week we will have UFC, what number is that? I'm not sure. Colby Covington and Leon Edwards in the main event. Is it 295? I don't know. I think it's 295. But Colby and Leon next week. We'll have that video out coming at you on Sunday. But starting it off on this 13 fight card, some of the earlier ones we can just, get this out of the way pretty quickly. The first one being Nate Kelly versus Callum Seaton. This is an amateur fight. Nate Kelly, he's 1-2. He's an SBG Ireland guy. Obviously, this card is in Dublin. That is why Nate Kelly is on the card. He's going to win the fight. I really don't care much about much of what Callum Seaton has to offer. He's from Northern Ireland. He's 22 years old. This is a guy who is 1-3 in the amateur ranks. Again, this is an amateur fight, so it really doesn't matter. I mean, it's what they do with Bajali Walsh. Like, they try to make us care, but, it's just not. It's an amateur fight. It doesn't really matter. If you want to pick, I will give you Nate Kelly. I think he wins. I think this fight is set up for him to win. So give me Nate Kelly to win the fight by unanimous decision. Next up, we've got a fight here between Connor Hughes and Sebas Santana Guedes. Connor Hughes coming into this fight, record of 7-1, coming off his first fight in PFL Europe at the lightweight tournament. He was a -500 favorite going into that first fight, and he loses a decision to Dylan Tuke. He loses it. We'll see Tuke later on in this card. But he loses the fight by unanimous decision, the only fight he's had in PFL Europe so far. Before that, he was fighting in UK Fighting Championships. He was 6-0 in that promotion. He'll be taking on the underdog in this fight in Sebas Santana Guedes. Guedes is 10-6-1. He was also fought in the PFL Europe second card. He lost the fight by TKO in the second round. I'm going to take Connor Hughes to win this fight. Again, only the one loss to Dylan Tuke, a guy who, in all fairness, I don't think all that highly of. We're going to see him later on in this card. He's a guy who's 6-4, who lost the next fight in PFL Europe. We'll see him again later on in this card. I don't think very highly of Tuke. I don't honestly think the highest of Connor Hughes as well, but I just don't think Sebas is that good. He's picked up 1 win since losing in PFL earlier this year. He won it by triangle choke in the second round. We've seen the ground game out of Sebas. It's not horrible, but we just did see him get grounded out in his last fight. I think Connor Hughes wins. I think all around he is the way better fighter. I think he's able to out-grapple Sebas in this fight. I think he's able to go out there and win. I'm going to take Connor Hughes to win the fight by first round submission. On to our next one. We have got Bondo taking on Dominique Wooding. You might have heard the name Dominique Wooding before. This is a guy who used to fight in Bellator. He's fought in Cage Warriors as well. He's fought in ACB a long time ago. Also, he's been around. He went 1-2 over in Bellator. Obviously, Bellator no longer a thing, so you're going to see a lot of these PFL guys, or a lot of these ex-Bellator guys now fighting in the PFL. Like, you're going to see Brett Johns later on in this card as well. But Wooding went 1-2 over in Bellator, won his first fight, but then dropped the next two to Franz Mlambo, who we're going to see later on in this card. And then Fabri Diatta, I butchered his name, but lost him by unanimous decision. I forgot how to say his name. But after that, he goes back to Cage Warriors. He wins his first fight by knockout in the first round, wins the Cage Warriors Bantamweight Championship in his next fight, retains it, and then drops it in his most recent fight in 2022. He's now coming on over here to the PFL. He's getting a guy here in Kaszuba Bondo who has lost his last 2 fights The last one being all the way in 2020, so it was over 3 years ago when Bondo made his last walk to an MMA cage. He loses it in the first round in Glory of Heroes to San Yang, and then his fight before that, he loses it to a now UFC name over in WLF Wars, which we've talked about WLF Wars in the channel before. It's not a great promotion. They've got some good fighters like a Shine-Lan Nordenbecka, like a Rong Zhu, those type of guys you're going to find in that, good fighters out that Chinese promotion. But, some fighters are really bad. Like the fight that Bondo had before Shine-Lan Nordenbecka, he beats a guy who's 0-0, right? The Nordenbecka fight, he loses it by rear naked choke in the first round. You know how good Nordenbecka is, at least in the regional ranks. He's a decent UFC fighter. Nordenbecka goes out there and submits Bondo in the first round. I'm expecting Dominic Wooding to go out here and win the fight. Again, a former Cage Warriors champion should go out here and absolutely dominate. I think he's able to win. We've seen him go out there and retain and win the Cage Warriors Bantamweight Championship by knockout early. I think he's able to do so. We've seen him do it before. I don't think anything's going to be different in this fight. I'm going to take Dominic Wooding to win the fight by first round knockout. On to our next one. It will be the PFL debut of one Tom Breese. Yes, the former UFC name has made his way to the PFL, sporting a professional record of 17 wins and 4 losses. He went 5-3 in the UFC, but got dropped from the promotion after losing a fight to Omari Akhmedov. I believe, he was booked to then fight Antonio Arroyo later on that year, about to drop out at the last second, so the UFC dropped him. Since then, he has gone outside of the UFC, and he has picked up 5 wins to only 1 loss, the 1 loss being in KSW in 2022. But back-to-back wins in 2023, the first one being at KSW 80 in March, and then after that, winning just a couple months ago in July. I guess that's more than a couple now, but still winning a fight over in July by triangle choke in the first round. You know what Tom Breese is going to bring. He's going to bring the grappling. I know his last win in the UFC did come with a power jab. It was a knockout. He beats KB Buller. KB Buller was not good in the UFC. I think he has kind of done all right. No, he actually has not done all right outside the UFC in his second stint, at least in unified MMA. But Tom Breese went out there and won the fight against KB Buller. His losses in the UFC were Brendan Allen, good name. Omari Akhmedov fought in the championship in the PFL, so we might see these guys fight again. I don't know. He lost to Sean Strickland back in 2016. Obviously, Sean Strickland's now a world champion. So really the losses, when you look back at them, are not that bad for Breese. It's Akhmedov, Strickland, and Allen are his only losses in the UFC. I know he has lost since then, though, in KSW, and that's fine. He should be able to go right through his opponent here in Clayton Silva in this fight. Silva, he can grapple, and he will give Breese somewhat of a competitive fight on the ground, but he's primarily a striker, and that's how he kind of wins most of his fights. He won his last fight in Braves with the striking, followed it up with the groundwork, but still, Silva is not, I think I undersold Silva a little bit. He's going to give Breese somewhat of a challenge here. I don't know what the odds are specifically for this fight. I don't really look at the PFL Europe odds. At least on Tapology, 97% of voters are going with Tom Breese, 3% are going with Clayton Silva. I don't think it should be that tilted in the favor of Breese. I think Silva has a chance in this fight. I think he's got a chance to wobble Breese in the feet. I think he's got a chance to really mix it up in terms of the grappling as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm still taking Tom Breese to win the fight by first round submission. However, if it gets out of that first round, I think, again, it can get tricky. I think this fight can get tricky, definitely, for Tom Breese, but I do think he's the way better grappler. I think he's going to show, again, that there are levels to this game. He's a guy who has fought in the UFC before. He's fought on the highest of levels. Clayton Silva has fought in, Brave, which is a decent promotion. Still, though, I'm going to take Tom Breese, the heavy favorite, to go out here and win. I'll take him by first round submission. Okay, our next fight will be between Brett Johns and his opponent here. You are getting the underdog in David Crol in this fight, who is an 11-7 French MMA fighter. This is going to be one-way traffic for Tom Breese. Or not, well, okay, that was last fight, my goodness. This will be one-way traffic for Brett Johns. He is 19-3 professionally. He went over to Bellator, did go 2-1. Now, at the time, we did not know how good Danny Sabatello was. When he lost to Danny Sabatello, I know Sabatello's lost now twice to Raufein Stotts. He went over and fought on that Ryzen ex-Bellator card and lost to Magomed Magomedov. I still think Sabatello is decent. I think he will have a solid run in this PFL, Bellator, whatever we're calling this thing, right? I think Sabatello isn't all that bad. Brett Johns, since then, won back-to-back fights. He beats an undefeated Khrushchev Kakhorov in his next fight. Of course, That's a guy who we're going to be seeing in the main, or not in the main event, but fighting for a championship against Franz Mlambo. So good win for Brett Johns, and then he beats Jordan Winsky after that. I think obviously the better win was at the time the undefeated Kakhorov, but now here he is against David Crol. Crol is 11-7, and we didn't even talk about Brett Johns' UFC run. He did pretty solid over there. He went 5-2, got cut from the promotion after I think he just tested free agency because he beats Montel Jackson, and Montel Jackson is a tough guy to beat who's 7-2 in the UFC. That guy's going to be a potential top 10 name very soon in Montel Jackson. He beats Montel Jackson. He beats Tony Gravely. The 2 fights before that, he lost back-to-back to Aljamain Sterling and Pedro Munoz, but Sterling, future world champion, one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. Pedro Munoz, a guy who, has been there, has done that in the bantamweight division for a very long time as well. So no shame in losing to those 2 guys. I think Johns is still very solid. I think he's, he can give you an all-around good game on the feet. He can give you a good game on the ground as well. Crol's a guy who has won 3 in a row, but at one point, this guy was 8-7 in his career, right? Dropping back-to-back fights in 2021. He comes back in 2022, wins 1, then wins 2 again in 2023. He's going to give Johns somewhat of a, he's going to give him somewhat of a test on the ground, I think, because that's where Crol is going to want this fight. However, I just think Johns is so much better. Even on the ground, too, I just think he's better everywhere. Give me Brett Johns to win the fight by unanimous decision. I think he 30-27s him. I think it's a really good opportunity for Brett Johns making his way now over in the PFL. So give me Johns to win the fight. I like him to take it again by unanimous decision. On to our next one. PFL didn't have pictures for either of these guys, so here you have it. It will be Andreas Binder taking on his opponent in this one. The underdog will be Daniel Scatizzi. Obviously, Scatizzi. I think Scatizzi is actually the favorite. But Scatizzi, you know him from, of course, Bellator. And, it's been a lot left to be desired for Scatizzi and Bellator recently, right? He's been trading wins and losses. He beats Brian Hoy. He loses to Vladimir Tokov. He beats David Gallon. And then he loses to Dmitry Hisenko in his last fight. Now here he is in the PFL. He's traded wins and losses. You can't really rely, honestly, on Daniel Scatizzi. And I know that's a very old picture that we have on the screen for Scatizzi. It does not look like that at all anymore. He looks emo in that picture. But I think he's going to have a tough out in this fight. I can really see this one going either way. I just don't trust Scatizzi all that much, I'll be honest with you. Again, we have seen him lose a lot. I know he picked up some wins in Bellator, but even before his Bellator run, or in between his first fight in Bellator, and then he went to Brave and Venator to fight, Venator, an Italian promotion. He loses to Gerard Hussein Al-Sawali, who went to the PFL and really hasn't been all that great for the promotion. He lost 3 in a row. He's been cut. He's gone back to Brave. He loses to Charlie Leary, who I know Leary, hasn't been great either. He's dropped 3 in a row to Gallon, to Soren Bach, to Yancy Medeiros. Even though the Medeiros fight got overturned. Scatizzi really has not been all that impressive. I like the power out of what we're going to get out of the Romanian here now fighting out of Ireland. I think he's able to go out here and really do some damage against Scatizzi. So give me Andreas to win the fight. I think he takes it by decision. All around, I like the striking game more. I think Scatizzi is competitive up there, but I think the power is going to be the difference. So give me Andreas Binder to win the fight by decision. I know I said the power is going to be the difference, but still, I think the damage he's able to accumulate on the feet is going to be too much. So give me Binder to win by decision. One of the closer ones, though, because Scatizzi right now is a favorite. If you're looking for underdog play, I would definitely look at Andreas. He's probably got the best chance so far to win as an underdog. We'll see if we get a better one as we keep going. Our next one, this one I don't think you're going to really see an underdog play, though. You've got Lewis McGrillen-Evans, who is undefeated, 8-0. He's fought twice in PFL Europe so far. He's won both of them by early knockout, the second one being in the second round, the first one being in the first round. He's getting Wesley Maia in this fight. For Wesley Maia, this is a guy who's 8-5. He's 2-2 in his last 4 fights over in Cage Warriors, losing to some decent guys, I guess, but not beating the best guys either. I think the most notable name on his record will be Jack Shore. He fought Shore back in 2018, lost the fight by first round TKO. But this is going to be one-way traffic. The PFL does this. They have done this with a lot of guys they've been trying to build up. McGrillen-Evans is another one of these guys they are trying to build up and they are trying to, make a name for. Now, again, I believe I've said this in the last couple fights that we've had with McGrillen-Evans, or at least the first time. Yeah, his fights prior to the PFL have been against a lot of guys who aren't very good. That's fair. I still think he's able to go out here and absolutely dominate. The power is a lot better and probably more than what Maia has seen so far. Again, Evans has not fought the best guys in the PFL either, right? He fought a 6-7 guy his first fight, an 8-5 guy. The PFL is pushing this guy. They're going to give him the right opponents until he can eventually be in the PFL season or in the Europe tournament, right? This is a fight made out for him to win. It would be stupid to pick anything otherwise. Louis McGrillen-Evans wins the fight by first round TKO. On to the next one here. It is for the light heavyweight championship. For PFL Europe, obviously they cannot put the PFL championship name to it because that is held by one Impa Kasanganay, who I think is going to be fighting Vadim Nemkov, and I think will give Vadim Nemkov a lot tougher of a fight than people expect. But Yakov Nedoh taking on Simeon Powell. This is a good fight. Nedoh is good. 7-1. He's got a lot of power. I would say he's got more power than Simeon Powell, and Simeon Powell is the face of the men's PFL Europe divisions. He is the face of what PFL Europe has, other than Dakota Ditcheva. They have put Powell on all the posters. He is their guy. And, he's been all right. He got a submission in his first fight. PFL Europe, he fought in the PFL back twice in 2022, 3 times in 2022. He won all of them. The Daniel Ladero fight was not great. He's a -800 favorite. Sure, he wins a decision, and yeah, you knew he was the winner at the end of those 15 minutes. But you would have liked to see a finish against a guy who is 3-2 in Ladero, who had lost the fight before to Anthony Salmon, who Nedoh ended up knocking out in the first round. This is a dangerous fight for Simeon Powell. This is the most dangerous fight they could have given him. I was very close to taking Powell to lose and taking Nedoh to win by first round knockout. I am going to take Powell, though, to rise to the occasion because this is going to take a lot out of him to win this fight. He is going to eat some punches from Nedoh in this fight. Nedoh is good. This will be a war on the feet until it ends. Whoever has more power, I don't think it's going to dictate the winner. I think it's going to be whoever is able to land the most clean shots. And I think Powell is able to do that. I think Powell is able to mix it up with his kicks. He's got good leg kicks. He's able to, take some of the focus away from the striking of Nedoh as well. And now if my pick doesn't hit a first round knockout, I do think this is going to go later in the fight. I think you will see a grappling advantage out of Simeon Powell. We have seen Powell go out there in his first PFL Europe fight. Again, he was able to go out there and win by submission. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that yet again. Again, he's got power. He's got good striking. I just think he's got to put it all together. Again, I would have really liked to see a finish in his last fight. I think he should have gone out there and beat the hell out of Ladero because, again, Ladero got knocked out in his first fight in PFL Europe. But still, I'm not going to pick against the PFL poster boy. They want Powell to win. I believe he's going to, but really the winner of this fight should be made out as a huge star for the PFL. Now, I'm not suggesting they go out there and fight Kasanganay next because I think Kasanganay is just way too experienced, even though he's not that experienced in his own right because he's just got into the sport in 2020 or 2019. But I don't think the winner of this fight should go out there and fight Kasanganay. It just wouldn't make sense personally. I don't think it's a smart fight. I think whoever wins this fight would still get dominated by Kasanganay. But I do think it's interesting when you think of the PFL champions versus the Bellator champions and potential PFL versus PFL fights with both guys being the PFL Europe and the PFL world champion. I think it's interesting. I'm interested to see what the PFL does with this and what they call it. I believe they'll call it the PFL Europe Championship, but I'm interested to see what they do with the next 3 title fights because then there's really no, you can say these guys are just the PFL world champion from there because they don't have another fighter in that weight class on the American soil that is the world champ. I think Powell wins. I would be careful with this fight ever so slightly. I will go with Simeon Powell, but I'm not that confident in it. I'm very confident in this fight because this fight is one-way traffic. Dakota Ditcheva taking on Valentina Scatizzi. This is not close. This is not a competitive fight, guys. Dakota Ditcheva is the Kayla Harrison of PFL Europe. She is the biggest star PFL Europe has got. They are trying to develop her, and they're trying to make her the biggest star that they have. It was apparent in 2022 when they put her on the playoff cards. She fought on those. She's the best fighter they have, I think, on the entire brand other than Dombe. Now, I don't know why Cedric Doumbé is not on this card. I guess he couldn't make the date, even though his last fight didn't last very long. I kind of wish that Doumbé would be main eventing this card instead of Nate Kelly. I think, again, we'll get to Nate Kelly's fight later. But Dakota Ditcheva is maybe one of the most marketable names they have. She's going to be able to go out here and absolutely dominate Valentina Scatizzi. Now, Scatizzi did have to win a fight to get here. Her second fight got canceled because she was supposed to be taking on originally Griet Ekut. Ekut couldn't make the day, so Manuela Marcinetto gets the replacement fight. Marcinetto misses weight, so Scatizzi automatically advances to the championship. Yikes. I thought Scatizzi was going to win the fight anyways, but still, she has 3 professional MMA fights, and she's getting a world championship fight in her 4th fight. It feels like what Taylor Gordano had to do a couple years ago in the PFL's stateside promotion against Kayla Harrison. This is one-way traffic. Again, Dakota Ditcheva is like a minus 800 favorite. It should be more. This is going to be dominant because Scatizzi in her first fight in the PFL Europe barely got by. She barely beats Lizzie Gevers by split decision. The fight before that she has in Slam FC, believe it's an Irish promotion? It's an Italian promotion. Yes, Scatizzi's Italian. Probably should have thought of that. She loses the fight by rear naked choke in the first round to Samantha Jean-Francois. Yeah, probably most known for fighting Reina Kubota and Ryzen in 2019. I don't know what's happened to Reina Kubota. She was supposed to be, a big deal, and then she lost to Lindsay Van Zandt in Bellator. I know she won the second fight, but anyways, one of the few Ryzen fighters I kind of pay attention to. Because just at one point, Reina Kubota was supposed to be a huge deal. But yeah, Scatizzi loses to Jean-Francois, and Francois has won 4 in a row, but still, it's just like, what are we doing here? Dakota Ditcheva is going to dominate. Her striking game is so much better. Her power is just way too much. This is one-way traffic. Dakota Ditcheva is going to absolutely win this fight against a fighter making their 4th walk to an MMA cage in a world championship fight. It's ridiculous. Ditcheva's gone out there before in the PFL. She's won by first round knockout twice, first round submission, and by 3rd round TKO in her last fight. Given it did take her a little bit longer to get that submission or that knockout in her last fight, but still she got the job done. Dakota Ditcheva wins. This is the biggest lock on the card. First round knockout. It is not even close. So TKO, take it however you want. Next up, a non-title fight. You get 2 title fights, and then you get this one. Dylan Tuke taking on Yazid Chouchane in this fight. I think Chouchane wins. He's 10-3, is the French-born fighter. He is 1-0 so far in PFL Europe. He wins it against Henrique Madeira by unanimous decision. He was a dog in that fight. He goes out there and picks up the victory. Originally, he was supposed to be taking on Luigi Venturini. Venturini pulls out. That would have been a bigger name for him. Obviously, a former UFC guy in Luigi Venturini. Dylan Tuke is 1-1 so far in PFL Europe. He wins his first fight against Connor Hughes by unanimous decision. We talked about that earlier. Huge win, but then he runs into Jakub Kaszuba in his last fight, and Kaszuba beats him by unanimous decision. Now, we're going to talk about Kaszuba in a second. He's an undefeated mixed martial artist. He's pretty good in his own right. This fight, though, I think goes to Chouchane. I think Chouchane's all around better. Tuke has just traded wins and losses. He's 6-4. He's inconsistent. He's been knocked out twice. He's been submitted before. I think Chouchane's just all around better. I think the all around game out of Chouchane is going to be too much for Dylan Tuke. I don't really have much to say about this fight. I think Chouchane should be rebooked at some point against Luigi Venturini. I think this is the perfect fight for Venturini to make his way onto the PFL because he's been booked in the PFL before. Has never fought. I think that's probably still the fight for him because he should be a PFL fighter, I believe. I mean, what, is he going to go to Cage Titans like he's supposed to fight Joe Giannetti? Like, come on. Luigi Venturini should be fighting Yazid Chouchane in his next fight. And I can't believe I'm talking about Luigi Venturini like he's a big name. He's not. But still, Chouchane's able to win this fight, and it's not even close, I think. Chouchane wins by unanimous decision. On to the lightweight championship, and is the PFL really going to call this fight their world championship fight? They might, because Oliver Aubin-Mercier has hung up the gloves. He's not coming back. Now, do I think Clay Collard could beat both these guys? 100%. But still, if you want to fill out all your champions, and if you want to feed the winner of this fight patchy mix, go ahead and do it. It's John Mitchell and Jakub Kaszuba. Oh, wait, no. Why did I say patchy mix? It's patchy mix is at 135 pounds. It's going to be the winner of whatever happens with Brent Primus and Alexander Chablis. Now, will that fight actually happen? I still think it should. I know the PFL is bought Bellator. If you didn't know that, there it is. But I think they should still do that fight. You should still call it. If seriously you're going to, okay, I don't know, is the PFL doing away with seasons? I don't know. I think they are doing away with seasons. If they truly are and they're just going to a Bellator format, you should have Kaszuba and John Mitchell fight. The winner of this fight should be fighting Clay Collard for the world championship. That's what you should do, right? You should say the winner of this fight is the PFL lightweight champion. The winner should fight Clay Collard, and the winner of Clay Collard and the winner of this fight should go on to fight the winner of Chablis and Primus, because Bellator doesn't have a lightweight champion. Nurmagomedov got stripped. It is vacant. So you should still crown they should have a Bellator championship fight in the PFL. Just this one fight, it's the one time it's going to happen. You got to finish out the Grand Prix. That should be the fight. You have Chablis and Primus fight. And then you have the winner of that fight whoever gets out the PFL gauntlet, which isn't all that tough. John Mitchell's 8-1. He's won 2 fights so far in PFL Europe, both by decision. I think Kaszuba's better. Trains out of Jacksonville, but is originally from Poland. He went to the University of North Florida. He's 2-0 again in PFL Europe so far. The first one being a first-round submission win, and the next one being the Dylan Tuke decision victory as well. Kaszuba's the much better fighter on the feet and on the ground, I think. Mitchell's got some pop in his shots, but really has not shown it so far in the PFL. I just think Kaszuba's the all-around better guy, and I think Kaszuba should be booked in a fight. If they're not going to do Clay Collard, bring out their poster boy in Shane Burgos. Like, seriously, maybe they should do that. Give Burgos a world championship and say, okay, Burgos, you go fight the winner of Chablis and Primus, which if it's Primus, I don't think Primus is bad, but I think it's an easier matchup for a lot of people than Alexander Chablis is. We'll see what they do. I think, again, they should still crown a Bellator lightweight champion and not put it on the champions, or they could put it on the PFL versus Bellator champions card, but just have one Bellator versus Bellator fight, and then quickly turn around the winner of Kaszuba and Mitchell against either Collard or Burgos. It should be Collard, though. Definitely not Bruno Miranda. But yeah, so I think this fight, as it seems, again, Mitchell showed power outside the PFL, but really has not done much since. In the PFL, he did win striking fights. I think Kaszuba's better. I think Kaszuba's got a better ground game. You saw it in his first fight in PFL Europe. He beat Dylan Tuke in his last one. I think Kaszuba does go out there and win. I will take him to win the fight by unanimous decision, becoming either the PFL Europe lightweight champion or just the PFL lightweight champion. Again, we've talked about what they should do as we move on, but yeah, I'm going to take Kaszuba to win by unanimous decision. On to our next one for the Bantamweight Championship. I'm assuming, again, this is just for the PFL Bantamweight Championship because they don't have a Bantamweight division over in the United States. So the winner of this fight is really going to have to fight, Patchy Mix? I guess so. Franz Mlambo, the Black Mamba, takes on Khurshid Kakhorov, which, again, the winner of this fight is actually fighting Mix. It does not make sense because Kakhorov just came from Bellator and he went 1-1 over there. He beats Jair Jr. and then he loses to Brett Johns. Brett Johns was not in Bellator title contention. If they really want to fill out a PFL versus Bellator card, you got to hope the winner of this fight gets lucky, or you hope it's Franz Mlambo, but oh wait, Franz Mlambo fought in Bellator as well. He did go 3-1. His one loss for Ricky Bandejas, he loses the fight by knockout in the second round. He gets checked with a left hook and he loses. What have both these guys done so far in PFL? Mlambo got by barely in back-to-back fights, and Kakhorov has gone out there and won 2 decisions. The Ali Taleb win, though, is a very good win. Taleb was undefeated. This is a guy who was a huge favorite going to that one. It gives me a lot of confidence picking Kakhorov in this fight. Khurshid's the way better fighter here, I think. Again, beating Ali Taleb is no easy feat. Kakhorov's striking game is good. Mlambo, I think, is going to struggle up there at 25 minutes. I think Kakhorov's going to get the better of Franz Mlambo. I think Mlambo is going to win a round. I don't think this is going to be one-way traffic. I think Mlambo is kind of decent. He has been hit before. I mean, again, it's the one fight to Ricky Bandejas where he got knocked out, so I'm not saying, again, Kakhorov's going to knock him out or anything, but I do think this will be a competitive fight. I think Kakhorov, though, is going to get the better of Franz Mlambo. All around, I think he is the way better fighter. In terms of striking, grappling might be tough because, again, Kakhorov's not known for his grappling, and Mlambo has won some fights down there before, but still, I will take Khurshid Kakhorov to win the fight and win the PFL Bantamweight Championship. Here you go fight Patchy Mix. He will win by unanimous decision. On to the main event. Now, I don't understand why this is in the main event. Like, if the PFL is seriously trying to become a contender and trying to become on par with the UFC, we cannot have a 6-3 Dimitri Smoles taking on Nate Kelly in the main event. It just can't happen. I know they are trying to build up Nate Kelly. I understand that's what they're trying to do. This is a guy who starts his professional MMA career 0-2, similar to Jack Della Maddalena at the UFC. He's won 8 in a row. I understand. But you just can't do this. You got to put the World Championship fight in the main event. I don't understand why they're not putting Nedoh and Powell in the main event. If not, Kakhorov and Mlambo should be in the main event. This is not a main event fight. I understand they're trying to build up Nate Kelly. I understand it's in Ireland, but still, he's not Cedric Doumbé. He's not on that level. He's not going to produce. I could be wrong. I don't live in Ireland, but I don't believe he's going to have the same effect as Doumbé in Paris. It's like it's the whole Piper in Portland thing. If you understand professional wrestling, you'll understand Piper in Portland, Brett in Canada, Punk in Chicago. Like it's I don't quite get it. I think Nate Kelly wins. I think this is one-way traffic. I think the PFL is definitely hoping he gets a finish. I think he will get the finish. I'm going to go with a second round submission for Nate Kelly. It's a main event fight, but it's only going to be 3 rounds. When you look at his opponent here, Dimitri Smoles, he's lost his last fight. He's coming off a loss. It's just really, he lost his last one by unanimous decision in MMA GP, which is a French promotion. He was the co-main event and he lost. We couldn't get the guy that beat him, who's 11-6. I don't understand the matchmaking. They want, of course, Nate Kelly to win, and that's what they're going to get. Kelly is going to win in front of the hometown crowd, and he's going to win it by second round submission. Hopefully, I think he gets the submission. This might go 15 minutes, and it might just be a dominant ground grappling decision. But Smoles has lost twice. Solimeis has lost twice before by submission. He's been choked out by a guy in Gladiator Fighting Arena back in 2021. He got heel hooked again in 2017. Nate Kelly has gone out there so far in the PFL. He's picked up 2 submission wins in 2022. In 2023, he fought Damian Nelson on the playoff card, which was main evented in New York City by Hernan Ferreira and Maurice Green. He was, the 3rd fight on that card. He wins it by decision. He beats Damian Nelson, who's now 4-4. It wasn't all that impressive. He should be able, though, to go out here and win the PFL Europe main event. He'll be able to get it done by second round submission. And folks, that'll do it for the PFL Europe championships card here, main evented by Nate Kelly. Again, that's the card, 13 fights. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. We'll be back for more PFL next year. I'm assuming a lot more cards. I believe the rumored PFL versus Bellator card will be in February. That'll be really cool. We got some really exciting matchups on that. Hopefully Francis Ngannou is going to make his debut on that card. They'll probably feed him Tim Johnson or something instead of giving him Bader. God, good Lord. Instead of giving him Bader, because they got to give Bader Hernan Ferreira probably. Which I do think is actually an interesting stylistic matchup. There's a lot of interesting stylistic matchups that PFL and Bellator can create. I'm thinking about making a separate video just about that, and then when those fights actually get announced, I'll have a different prediction, but I'll have a more detailed prediction, but I might make a separate video about the PFL versus Bellator champions, just because it is a very interesting situation. This hasn't happened in a while, right? It's been a minute since 2 promotions have combined, right? So I'm going to take Nate Kelly in the main event. That was not a surprise. I don't know why I just said that. But we'll be back next year for more PFL predictions now that they have taken over Bellator. Bellator is kind of dead now, but there will be a lot of mentioning of Bellator. And then, of course, UFC next week with Colby Covington and Leon Edwards in the main event for the welterweight championship. And in the co-main event, you will have the rematch of Brandon Royval and Alexandre Pantoja for that 125-pound strap. So, folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Thanks again for watching, and Mamba.